We're looking back at this day in local history now. 31 years ago today, Mississippi's own Myrlie Evers was elected national chair of the NAACP. Her late husband, Medgar, had been field secretary for that same organization at the time of his death in 1963, and she became chair 1 year after Byron DeLay Beckwith was convicted for his assassination. She had moved away from Mississippi and remarried, but she maintained close ties to the Magnolia State. Myrlie Evers becomes national chair of the NAACP on February 18, 1995. Your look at this day in history.